Planning Commission of Columbus. It is now 6 p.m. We'll have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right, I'm looking for approval of tonight's meeting agenda.
Hi, Kim. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order.
Okay. And you had a motion to approve the meeting,
Yes.
meeting agenda? And a second?
Second.
Say your name
Mike Ostwald.
and second.
And second.
Okay, we'll take a vote.
Kim, aye.
Rob and I.
Abstain.
Okay, and get approval of the June 4th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting minutes.
Hi, Kim. Will approve the June 4th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting minutes. Make a motion.
Second. Mike.
All right, and look for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Kim, aye.
Go ahead.
Oh, a motion
I'll make a motion
to approve the consent agenda.
approve the consent agenda.
In a second.
Second. Mike.
All right, we take a vote.
Kim, aye.
Mike abstain.
No, you're here
Okay.
because you were here for the approval of the meeting agenda.
Oh, all right.
All right. At this point, then, we're going to open the floor to a public. If anybody has anything they'd like to speak at this time. Anybody here or online? All right, then we'll close that. And we're going to have Planning Commission discussion with the Rybak site plan review for 13915 Lake Drive Northeast. David, if I could have you, David Rybak, come on up to the table up here, have a seat in front of the microphone, give us your name and address.
Dave Rybak, 5725 137th Avenue, Northeast Columbus.
And thank you for coming tonight, David. Could you tell us a little bit about what your plans are with the property going forward here?
We'd like to put a storage building up for the equipment that we have parked outside now.
Okay.
It's 90 by, I don't know what the length is. 120. 4 bays. Do you have the plans?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, sorry.
Yes, everybody's got a copy of the plans.
And it's to support our railroad services business,
Okay.
which is, the majority of the work. The work isn't done at that property. It's done out in the, on the rail line industry.
Okay.
But the building would be used for our emergency call-out services.
Okay. Well, I was out there today, and everything looked in order. You have the easement there set off to the side. That's good. Everything looks like it's ready to go from what I could tell. Now, the plans, I was looking at the plans earlier, they're all set?
Yes.
Yes, so you have architectural drawings and all of that. That's what these are as well.
I believe they've all been submitted.
We have not submitted for building permit, but everything is submitted through watershed.
Okay, okay,
We're hoping to submit for building permit after tonight's meeting.
okay. Well, you'll actually probably have to wait for city council. City council going to see this at all, or just us?
Yes, so this would be a recommendation to the city council after their approval, then at that point you would be able to apply for building permits.
And when is the city council meeting?
So that would be next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
And do you have any questions, Kim?
No, I do not.
And for yourself?
I do not.
Okay.
All right. You want me to go over?
Yes, would you
Some of
go
the-
over what is taking place?
Yes,
Should do
yes.
that.
There is a bit of a history in this site plan review that I wanted to go over with all of you. This addition was originally submitted back in 2007 and was a part of that CUP. No, yes, 2007, and was a part of that CUP. Unfortunately, it was not built at that time. It's still written in all of their approvals, all of their documentation on the site is this expansion that they were proposing, and it just simply never went in until recently they resubmitted all of these plans to us. We looked through their approvals, saw that there wasn't really any major changes from what was already written into their CUP. There was a couple things that had changed. Namely, they updated the building elevations to become compliant to reflect our updated building code. In the original CUP, they actually had not submitted any building elevations, and it was approved on the contingency that those are and eventually come through. So that is some new information that we have. And then the other larger change was Rice Creek Watershed is requiring some additional stormwater ponding go in at the front of the property near the driveway, on either side of the driveway, which will unfortunately require the removal of a number of some of their screening trees along Lake Drive. I think it was 4 trees that will have to be pulled out in order to accommodate the new stormwater ponds. That was a big part of their original approval, was the installation of these large pine trees along Lake Drive. So it is unfortunate that some of them will have to be removed in order to accommodate the Rice Creek watershed requirements. However, in the original approvals, it's not specifically stated how many or where those trees need to be, so they won't be out of compliance with their CUP with this change. So that was really the only major changes from what was originally proposed, and then what you have in front of you a couple decades later. But it's finally going in, and we're pretty excited about that. Is there any questions on that?
Not from me.
All right.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve it?
Yeah.
I can make a motion to recommend approval of the Rybak site plan.
Second for Mike.
All right, we'll take a vote.
Kim, I.
Rob and I.
Mike, aye.
It passes. Okay, our next is, you can step back, David. Thank you very much for coming in tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, next on our agenda, we're going to talk about backyard weddings concept review at 7507 180th Avenue Northeast. And Eleanor, would you please give us some background on this, please?
I would love to. This is a concept that's coming before you because city staff was contacted by some residents who would like to host small wedding ceremonies in their backyard garden on a semi-regular basis. This would be renting out their backyard space for these weddings. According to our current code, an event license is required for gatherings exceeding 50 guests or when admission fees are involved. Now, the renting of the venue would be considered an admission fee, so this kind of event would require an event license. And this can happen in any zoning district, whether that be residential or if a company would like to host a similar event in any area. That's the breadth of our event licensing. So while the proposed events would be limited to 40 guests, the ones that they are proposing, the fact that the venue would be rented for a fee triggers the requirement for that event license. At the current time, the city code does not specifically address this type of activity on a residential property, and therefore would require the residents to apply for each of these weddings individually, and have to go to city council meetings for each individual proposed wedding. However, if you guys would, if the Planning Commission and City Council wish to consider this use and uses like this in the future, there are several potential pathways to amend the code to allow these types of events. For this particular one, the residents submitted a example event license application, which can be found on page 24 of your packet. This outlines what an example wedding application would look like, stating that the estimated number of attendants would be only 20 to 40 people. Canopy tent permits would be applied for individually if rain is forecasted. There would be no amplified music. The events would be during daytime hours. And the staff agrees that these are pretty reasonable requests to have, but the first thing that I want to discuss is whether or not this type of use is something that you would like to consider.
Well, I know in talking with you earlier about this, I feel it's kind of over redundant to have them apply, if they're going to be doing this on a regular basis.
Yes.
To have them apply for every single wedding seems like an awful lot of time, waste of time, a waste of our resources as a city, that we don't just make this as a standard business license for them, that they can
Yes.
run out of their house.
Just for context, I believe those are the applicants if you wanted to have them explain anything later. So there's two different ways that we can permit this as a continuous use, and that would be our annual event license, which they would, which currently only applies to businesses, and they would come in every year, and we would approve all of the events for that year going forward. They would have the license for the year, and then they would come back the next year in that similar process. The ordinance amendment that would be required to allow this for this specific use would be to allow the annual event license to apply to residents as well as businesses. And so this ties back to a previous applicant that we had come in 2023 who host dog shows and dog competitions on a semi-regular basis at their property. We kind of did this for them at that time of approving all of the events beforehand. However, our code doesn't necessarily address that. And the exception that we made for them was because we knew each and every event beforehand. With this particular resident, we wouldn't know the dates of every wedding that they're planning a year in advance. We would say, essentially, you can have 8 of them, you can have 10 of them a year, and we would mark that you would have to notify us beforehand. The other way that we can go with this is to do an IUP. An IUP can last as long as we decide they can last. It can be 3 years, it can be 5 years, we can let them do it for 20 years if we want. Staff recommendation is to go probably around 3 years for this. And that would, you can limit that to only wedding venues in the residential neighborhood if those wedding venues only have 40 guests. So we can keep that a little bit narrower if we don't want to allow continuous event businesses to start popping up everywhere in the rural residential. And that is a policy decision. That is up to you guys on what direction you want to go there. One of them allows them to have a longer length of permit and would potentially only really relate to this particular business. And the other one would require them to come in every year, but would allow for other types of uses similar to this in the future to come in and do a similar process. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
Yes. I also want to talk about public hearings for both of those. So for an event license, the annual event license, you don't technically need a public hearing. It can go straight to City Council. It doesn't need to come before Planning Commission. It can if we want to. Staff recommendation would be if somebody were to apply for one of these annual event licenses, they would come before a public hearing and the Planning Commission the first go around, go to the City Council to be established. And then if they operate without any issues, without any neighbor complaints for a full year, they, on their renewal, they can just simply go to City Council and not have to go to a public hearing, Planning Commission meeting, and City Council on each renewal. I believe that the applicants are here if you wish to ask them any questions as well.
Hello.
I have a question. Is there adequate parking?
In our yard, we are blessed to have a very long driveway and it's grass on both sides. So, as I expressed with Eleanor in a plot map that she provided me, which I'm grateful for, we did indicate that this is where we would park people and the road is not going to be used, or cars are not going to be out on the road. So we're lucky to have that. And we just tarred the driveway yesterday. Not for this, but for our own, but it's really a nice tarred driveway.
So.
Could you please
actually,
come
can
up
I
to the
have you
table
step
so we
up to
can
the
hear you
front
better?
table?
Thank
Yeah.
you.
We have to speak in a mic.
It's a little bit easier for me later.
And could I have you state your name and your address for us, please?
Julie and Chris Harper, and 7553 180th Avenue Northeast, Columbus.
you.
55025.
Thank you. So we got the formalities. I was a little backwards here. I have a question for you. How long do you see doing this into the future?
Well, we're retiring, so probably not forever. And this is
3 to 5 years.
yeah, maybe 3 to 5, maybe at the most. And we really don't have a idea of like deliberately ending it at a certain time. I mean, like we're tucked up to Carlos Avery, and again, it's a beautiful spot. And we've married a couple of kids of our own off of in the past, and both times have been one in the winter and one in the summer. And the summer one was much easier because we didn't have to entertain anybody in the house. So that's the goal, is only May, June, and then we have to have a break from the deer flies. And believe it or not, that's in our area, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
So they last for 6 weeks, and then we would start up again September, October for fall.
Okay.
So that's kind of the way, that's kind of what our goals are. It's not for every single month of the year, just the summer. And we want to have the opportunity to have everybody outside, not in our house.
Okay. Have you booked any weddings yet?
No, we've got to get through this process.
I would hate to hear you say that you had booked some weddings and we haven't done anything yet.
And that was reason for getting with Eleanor in the first place, because we missed our May, June now. And we would like to try, if we can, to do September, October, if it's possible, and not have to wait until next year.
Okay. Do you have any?
No, sir. No questions for me.
Well,
Then I'll
I'm going to let you
let
go
her.
first.
If the question's about the parking, if you see what's exhibited on the screen, on the driveway there going in on the left would be 45-degree angle parking.
Yep,
And on the right would be parallel parking.
yep.
And with the length of that driveway and the spaces required, the spatial requirements for those parking spaces, depending on if you had somebody there to help people park, you could probably get 28 vehicles along that driveway. If you let them go and park on their own, you could get a lot less. But if you control it, you can probably get maybe up to 28 parking spaces there.
Okay.
And then the blue dot is the BIFs. We would have to entertain a porta potty because we are septic system. And that kind of volume of people, like I said, we don't want them in our house. So
Yep.
that's what we always have to entertain there, is the BIFs.
When you do the parking, will you leave your driveway turnaround at your house and garage open so emergency vehicles, if they had to get in there, would have ample staging areas?
Yep. So we would be able, and especially now with the tarred driveway, I'm so happy for it. Because as you see the cars that are more on the right side, that other half of the driveway is completely open. So we would be able to have any kind of 911 vehicle be able to come in. Also then, where you see the concrete up by the house and the garage, every car can go down that driveway, turn around, and just come back out again. So that works good too. We're
Pretty
lucky.
much do a U-turn.
Yeah.
It's big enough for.
Yeah. So, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yes. So I'm not actually looking for a motion at this point. I am looking for a direction of if you guys have a preference on what way to go.
Well, like I said, when we talked about it before, and I really thought about this for a while, and I thought, I want to keep control over how much of this is going to go on in the city. I think you got a great plan. Don't get me wrong when I say this. But I think if we do the application every year, I think we have a little more control where we get to talk to them. We get to see if there's been any complaints, anything like that. Whereas if we go with an IUP right away, you know, they're approved for 3 to 5 years, and we've never done this. And I think I would like to do this on 1 year basis at least till we see how everything turns out. If we have more people applying, then maybe we have to do more about it. But I think in this particular instance, and in probably most future incidents, 1 year at a time will be plenty. Because I think some people find that they don't want to do it, and here they've invested all the time and energy, and we have too for an IUP. I think that's overkill at this point. Unless we start to see a problem, then I could see changing it again and start doing IUPs to limit things.
Can I ask a question, Robin?
Yes.
With that in mind, every year, is there a fee that you are recommending or that it would be charged to us in terms of, is it any cheaper for a UIP or a
I will turn that over to Eleanor for that answer.
All right. I was hoping that we would touch on this a little bit.
Okay.
Currently, our event licenses for your type of event would just be, it would be $30 per event hosted. And you currently in our ordinance would have to pay upon the annual event license. So every year, every event would be $30. For the interim use permit, that is a $200 fee when you get the IUP, and that lasts for however long
length is?
the length is. However, for an IUP, there is a escrow deposit. Sometimes IUPs get really expensive with engineering and consulting fees. This one probably would not, but unfortunately there is a $1,500 escrow that would be returned to you once the IUP is approved, with any legal engineering fees retracted.
That's if we went IUP.
That's if you went IUP. The annual event license is $30 per event. Actually, it's $20 per event.
200 for that.
It's getting better.
Yes. It's 20, so if you were planning to do 10 events a year, that would be a $200 fee every year, while the IUP would be $200 for as long as it lasts. So it is a little bit cheaper to go the IUP route. I circled back and got to my point eventually.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good point. And again, like I said, I'd like to start though with just a yearly annual license to hold these events so that we can get our feet wet a little bit before we start making huge decisions about how long we want somebody to be able to run these.
Okay. Well,
Can I ask a
feedback
question?
you would-
Can I ask you a question? So, so this is Janet. I'm the council liaison, so I don't get a vote. I'm just here to add intrigue to the discussion, I guess. One of the things you could consider, if you like the idea of the IUP, is you could just do a one-year IUP and then renew it for a longer period of time if everything goes well. We've done that before for new businesses when we did it in the residential zone as residential. So you don't, you can assign any length of time to an IUP, but you could just say, let's do it for a year. It costs $200. You can decide what you want to do about the escrow. If you know there's not going to be engineering, you could
Or fees.
deal with that. But
city approval.
and then when they come back the next year, if everything's great, you can say, let's do it for 3 years or 5 years. And so that's an option too.
Okay. Thank you.
Do I have a vote?
we would like to hear your opinion.
Yes, we'd like to hear your
I
opinion.
would really appreciate the IUP part, and then renewing it for the first time in a year. Simply, like you said, Robin, get your feet wet, and we need to get our feet wet as well. And then if we don't like it, we're gonna, get out of it. But then at that point, then go a longer period if we feel we like doing it.
Okay.
So I think it gives both parties a win-win in that respect. And I'm not afraid to say that out loud. I think it's the meeting of the minds here for the sake of understanding what's best for everybody. I mean, you guys, I have to watch for cooperation with Eleanor for making sure she knows of the events coming up. And then backwards again next year, getting back together and seeing what worked and what didn't. And, going from that point, I think we'll have more say in a year from now which way we want to go. And I just don't want to commit to something long-term if it doesn't work.
Sure,
And if-
sure, and that's the same way that
You
I feel
feel.
about it. I
Yep.
don't want to commit to
Exactly.
a long-term when we haven't done this before.
Yep.
Have we done anything like this before, Eleanor?
Just the dog.
Just the dog
dog show?
events, and that was essentially through an annual event license.
Okay.
Though,
With some asterisks?
with some asterisks in there.
We'll just put it that way.
I know they live on a very busy road. And that
Yes.
is, they have a long driveway, thank God for that. But they have a very busy road to contend with, just exiting.
Yeah.
And that's something we're grateful for, that we don't. Our road is pretty much almost a dead end. Well, it's not really a dead end, but it just, the gravel part, what I was sharing with Eleanor earlier, isn't the way we would bring people in. We would be bringing them in on the tar, on the Potomac tar road.
Okay.
And that we don't want to entertain that dirt either. I don't appreciate driving on it at all myself, so why would I want anybody else to? So when you do Google Maps for our place and our address, it always brings them in on 180th,
Which is,
and that is all tar.
yes, which we would prefer as well.
Yep, so that's kind of a nice thing too.
Well, I see, with your wonderful suggestion and your input on it, I see no reason why we can't do a one-year IUP.
We can certainly do that, yes.
I did not know that that was an option. So, yeah, one-year IUP is a good idea.
Okay.
Thank you, Janet.
You are.
Thanks.
I have one other question. So if you go back to the other picture, where those dots are, that's where people would be seated, correct?
Yeah.
So it's pretty close to the house on the other side. How are your neighbors feeling about this?
He built that great, that's not his house, that's a huge shed.
Oh, it's a big pole barn or something?
Big pole barn.
Okay.
He's got,
Yes,
he's
the
got
house is here.
smashing cars in there.
Okay.
Yeah, and our population would be sitting there for the wedding party, because that's the pergola that is getting decorated for the wedding. And then from there, we would be off, maybe on the, more on the concrete.
So we haven't talked with him yet.
Okay.
We're just kind of in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like there probably wouldn't be a conflict, but that might be a good, another next step for you, just to let him see
Yeah.
if he has any issues with it.
We're a huge backyard, big, a lot of mowing, but it's all green grass back there. So we would,
That would be a wonderful place.
yeah, and I've said this to Eleanor out loud, or in the bottom of an email. We were blessed with such a remarkable piece of land that Jim Blake originally built, and then we remodeled when we bought it 13 years ago, and why we didn't do this when we were younger. I'm like, why did we wait till we retired? But it is, like I tell my husband all the time, I said, it's only good until our first forest fire that takes us all out.
Yeah.
And that would be a very sad day for us as well.
Eleanor, what would you like from us?
So I'm getting the general consensus that the Planning Commission is recommending the IUP route with the potential to renew it in 1 year, and then decide at that point if you want to go a longer route. Unfortunately, this will have to go before the City Council for the official call to make that ordinance revision. That will be next week on Wednesday. If you can attend, that would be great. Otherwise, I will write up a report of today's proceedings.
Be here.
Okay, fantastic.
Thank you. All right. Planning Commissioner's report. Nothing at this time. Kim, did you have anything that you wanted to bring up?
No, I did not.
Anything in the future?
Nothing for me.
You, okay. Okay. I just want to say that I had a very good visit there with David Rybak today. His business is very interesting. He gave me a full tour of the whole place and how they do everything. And I always saw the sign there for Rybak, but never knew what they did. And he says, nobody knows what we do. So he was just thrilled to death to get to show somebody around to see what all it is that they do. And if you guys want to talk later about it, I can tell you some, but the packet is excellent. It really shows what they do. It's fabulous little tool for us. So that's all I have.
I have one thing. I'd like to introduce our new Planning Commission member, Mike Ostwald.
Oh, yes.
He's been appointed. This is his first meeting, and he was interviewed. He was a very impressive candidate. We welcome him aboard and look forward to working with him. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
And anything from the assistant planner?
Well, you stole my introduction of Mike, but thank you for joining us, Mike.
You're going to say nice things like, go ahead.
We're excited to have you here and get to hear your input on some of these matters. I'm going to do my, every 2 weeks, I'll just mention what types of questions I'm consistently getting from the public as matters of things that we should bring up later. Recently, I've been getting a consistent number of calls from residents wanting to do temporary care dwelling units for their family members, for older residents. Currently, our code only allows them to build an addition on their home in order to house sick family members, aging parents, that kind of situation. It is pretty common in a lot of towns to start moving towards allowing ADUs. We have not in the past, but since we've gotten an increased number of calls, it might be a good idea in the near future to at least discuss that as a point. Whether or not we decide to pursue it fully, I would like to make everybody aware that that is what staff is getting calls about recently.
Okay.
I think that's all that I have to report on today.
All right. Well, I guess now I am looking for a motion to adjourn.
Hi, Kim. I make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second. Mike?
All right, we'll take a vote.
Kim, aye.
Aye. Mike?
Rob and I,
Getting there.
vote carries. Meeting is adjourned at
No, it was
35.